It's springtime in northern Illinois, so what I'm going to be doing today is taking all the Sarracenia out of my garage greenhouse grow room and move them back to where I grow them in the spring and summer. So it's going to be a little bit of work taking all this out hand by hand, and I'm also going to prune off all the dead leaves on here and do a little bit of maintenance. So let's get started. So today is April 4th, and I've just been waiting for the temperatures here to be above freezing, and it looks like there's really not going to be much weather falling below the 30s where I live. So all of these are getting moved from the garage back into the washing machine pans where they sit in full sun out in my yard by the fence line. So in terms of maintenance, it's pretty easy. Well, not really when you have a collection this big, because I'm going to have to go and remove all of the brown leaves. A lot of these are dead all the way to the base of the plant. And if you tug on them, a lot of times they just come off without much force, so that's easier than cutting them. For the ones that won't budge, I'll just come back and chop them as close as I can to the base later on. And then overall, I chopped a lot of the growth back. And I used to not do this because I say, oh, every, square inch of photosynthetic material that's still green is useful to the plant. However, when the collection is this big and some of these pots are just getting too overcrowded, I figured it's easier just to chop it back, and they're going to start growing pretty soon anyways. They're pretty vigorous, so it's not going to really make too much of a difference. This year, it was just easier for me to clean cut them. So on this one, I'm doing the same thing, removing all the dead brown pitchers, the old flower stalks, and then once I only have the green foliage left, I'm going to go back and kind of chop that down halfway just to make room for the new growth this year. The other thing I'm going to do today is take some of these out of the pot and rip the weeds off of the soil surface. There's a lot of junk in there. Mainly the worst ones are little tree seedlings. I think there's some kind of beech tree, and it just sends down tap roots and it just becomes like an aggressive pest. So I'm going to rip those out where I see them. And other than that, that's going to be the maintenance for today. Now that they're outside, these washing machine pans are going to fill with some shallow water, maybe about an inch. There's going to be a nice air circulation and breeze around these plants now. And I added a fourth pan, so I've got more room. And I'm just preparing to take some of these older plants and divide up the rhizome to where I just have one chunk per pot and kind of just keep this whole propagation going. And then also, now that I see empty spaces in my collection, not really, it's the same amount of plants I had, but I added that extra pan, and for me, that's another excuse to say, hey, you know what, it's maybe time to buy some of those more expensive Sarracenia cultivars, so probably shouldn't, but knowing me, this is probably going to be filled up with some more interesting plants this growing season. And here's a purpurea. It's another example of something that's just very overgrown, so I'm actually probably even going to do a in-ground bog in the back there where that tub is. That'll be a future video. This is the Sarracenia for today in early spring here in the Chicagoland area.